Here I am, climbing up, feeling great, getting love. Here I go, risk it all, be worth it now, and that's for sure. Watch me as I Rocketeer.
All right, episode 40 of Fight Talk Down Under is brought to you by CMBT Nutrition. Go to cmbt.com.au for all your protein powder, protein bars, pre-workout, all that good nutritional stuff. They're obviously huge supporters of Aussie MMA and, of course, of our guy Lockjaw here. So go to cmbt.com.au, use the promo code Justin for 10% off at the checkout and give them all some love. We're also brought to you by Nutcare. Now, they say that that maintaining downstairs gives you an extra inch, right? Now, we could all use an extra inch, couldn't we? So, but how much of a pain in the ass is shaving, really? That's like, that's probably the biggest thing. It's probably one of the biggest things that holds people back. But guys, there's a solution. Bare Nuts hair removal cream is much easier and safer than shaving and far less time consuming and painful than waxing. So go to nutcare.com.au, use the promo code FIGHTNEWS for 10% off at the checkout. That's nutcare.com.au, promo code FIGHTNEWS. Right, welcome everyone. Episode 40, we're here. It's been another delay. We've sort of had a bit of a stop-start 2023, but we're here. We've obviously got a huge week ahead of us. We're going to break down Eternal 76 this weekend. We're going to have a bit of a chat about Hex Fight Series 26, which was a week or so ago, and a few of the other happenings sort of globally, with the Australian and Kiwi fighters globally. But of course, I'm Dan from Fight News Australia, and of course my co-host is here. He's the Eternal featherweight champion. He's fighting Rod Costa at Eternal 76 this weekend on June 10th, live on UFC Fight Pass. I speak, of course, of Lockjaw Justin Van Heerden. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Yeah, obviously back at it. It's fight week, so same old routine. We're just drinking lots of water and eating very disciplined, measured out meals, and then getting ready to punch old Rod Costa in the face until he doesn't want to be there anymore.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess, can you lift the lid on a little bit on what this week looks like? Obviously, the hard work's done now. I assume you're not doing a whole lot of hard training. What does fight week normally entail?
Yeah, so I'm just getting in. I still go into the gym in the morning and in the arvo and just move around, just a light move around, do a bit more, just get a light sort of sweat up, and just get the body moving really. But mostly it's just probably the week's just spent really recovering, water loading, and then just basically managing the weight cut side of things and getting on top of that and getting that sorted, the sort of, I guess, building up towards the water cut, and then getting that all fine tuned, and then obviously traveling to Perth and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's a pretty easy week on the body, pretty easy week, just doing a little bit here and there. Obviously, like you said, all the hard sessions are done. I did my last spider for the camp on Friday, did my last sort of move around on sparring sort of session on Saturday. So yeah, everything's done now. It's just got to get there, make weight, and then we're on.
And how difficult is that process of sort of making weight? Obviously you're not a small featherweight, so I guess what does that look like?
It's a lot better since I obviously got involved with the boys from the Fight Dietitian. Before that it was a struggle, and it was there's there was a few times where where the weight cuts were I guess a bit more strenuous, a bit harder or whatever. But nowadays it's kind of it's a much easier process. Obviously, as you said, I'm a big featherweight, I'm big for this weight class, but it's a lot more of a smooth process than what it used to be. So obviously, if you look at, and I think that shows in my last couple of fights. If you look at last year, Fight to Fight, I think physically I'm making the weight easier than I ever did. I'm looking better when I'm going out there and performing, and obviously it's not the weight cuts are not affecting me and my performances because it's being done, the right way and following the right sort of protocols and stuff like that. So yeah, but obviously it's still not easy. It's not a breeze and a walk in a park. There's still a mental push with cutting weight, and it's like that for anyone, whether you got to lose a kilo or 10 kilos or 15 kilos. I don't know. I imagine, it's the same sort of thing. It's just a mental push, and you just got to, stay disciplined and just be okay, I just got to win this one little bit battle and overcome this one little hurdle, and then I can do the thing that I've been training 8 weeks or 10 weeks or 12 weeks for.
Yeah, and what's your post weigh-in meal like? I've seen some bits and pieces from the fight dietitian on Instagram of some of the meals that the fighters have afterwards, and a lot of fighters say that they're the best meals that they'll have in their lives is the post weigh-in meal. So what's your go-to?
It's sort of a mix of things. It's just something I usually just want to have initially. Initially, the food isn't even the thing that comes into your mind or something that you're really like, oh, okay. Like, obviously, you got to eat and refuel afterwards. But for me, it's more so straight away, you just want the liquids. So for the first sort of period, it's just about getting the fluids back in and doing that, the right way. Obviously, you can't just go and scull a bunch of water or drink a bunch of Trainade or CMBT sort of products and octane and stuff like that and chuck it all in a thing and just drink it, or and just scull a bunch of fluids. But in terms of food wise, it's usually something carb heavy. So something that's heavy on carbs. Like, I don't know, I mix it up sometimes. Like the last fight after I weighed in, initially I had some fruit, some berries, and then I had a couple of the sort of burritos that are on the TFD sort of book, like cookbook or post weigh-in sort of meals or whatever. And then, kept carrying on with the fluids and stuff like that. But then later on, I had went for some garlic bread, some truffle Italian sausage pasta that was pretty damn good. And then, just kept mixing it up with sort of the other sort of stuff that I've been eating through camp too. So obviously, that's the main thing, is just sort of still eating stuff that you've been eating through camp so that you're used to eating, and that is going to do the right things and hit the sort of markers that you need. But at the same time too, I still have a little bit of an indulgence after weigh-ins, like I'm sure everyone does. But for me, I always make sure that at some point I have some pancakes or some waffles or something in that time frame. And then obviously the morning of fight day, decent breakfast. But again, eating stuff that is good for you but tastes good, but also the stuff that you've been eating, so bacon, eggs, avocado, stuff like that, all the good stuff.
Yeah, brilliant. And do you eat on fight day, I guess before the fight, when's sort of your last meal, that sort of thing? Because I know a lot of people can't sort of step into the cage with food in their stomachs. So how do you run it?
Yeah, I treat it the same as I would for sparring. So I'll have, obviously on a Saturday when I go to sparring, I'll eat something when I get up in the morning. So by the time I get to sparring at 9:30, I've already sort of, I guess, digested the food that I've consumed, and I'm fueled and ready to go for the session. I don't eat right before. I'll have a coffee right before. So fight day is pretty much the same. I'll eat breakfast, I'll eat lunch, and then, especially now, in these last few fights, I've being sort of towards the later end of the card, I'll probably eat something at maybe 5-6 o'clock, and then I won't eat anything again until after the fight. I might take a banana or some berries or something with me to sort of snack on here and there, but really the main thing is just having some water and some fluids and stuff like that with me, and then I'll get a coffee at some point before I head to the venue. And obviously I get there I try and get there before the first fight's on, because I want to watch all the fights. I don't mind being there watching the fights and just hanging out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, there's some good fights to watch, and so it's probably a good time to kick off a bit of a breakdown of the card now that we've sort of covered all the nutritional sort of issues that everyone was wondering about, of course. So, but Eternal 76. We'll probably just do let's just do the main card, right? So the first fight on the main card at the moment, Sebastian Salai versus Chris Justinovsky.
No, it's Sebastian Salai. I got to get it out there. He's my teammate, and I've got to get the pronunciation out for him. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
I knew I was gonna. You know what? I thought his opponent was the one that I was really worried about going into this one. Was Justinovsky, which I don't know whether I've just doubled up on my butchering of his name or not. Apologies to Chris if I have, but I've bloody got Sebastian's name wrong as well. So that might be 2 from 2. That's
No, I think
devastating. I thought I had that one in the bag.
I'm just glad you didn't ask me to say Chris's name, because I would have butchered that for sure.
Yeah, maybe I should just kick these over to you from now on. I don't know. I feel like I've butchered enough names across 40 episodes here, so this might be your job from now on.
I'll take it. I'll give my best shot.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. What do you make of the matchup anyway? Zalai versus Ustinovsky.
Yeah, it should be a good fight. Obviously, Seb's someone that I've, linked up with for a bit, well before he even came to freestyle. He and I have had a sort of, I guess, connection, and we fought on a couple cards and stuff like that. And then obviously he came to freestyle for a few of the camps, and now then he made the decision to move over to, move to Wollongong and come to freestyle and train here. So yeah, he's obviously experienced martial artist. He's sort of been doing it for a very long time. Got a good karate background. But he's rounded out his game immensely. I think even before coming to freestyle, but now especially being a freestyle, while still utilizing those things that he has, like those explosive. He's very explosive, very fast. Can throw kicks up from out of nowhere, and obviously you got that real blitzy karate type style. So you mix that in with the improvements in the wrestling and grappling and the conditioning side of things that conditioning that we're sort of famous for at freestyle. And I could see him, and especially being a bantamweight, I could see him being a problem for a lot of people. So it's going to be a good fight. I'm excited, and obviously I've gotten to move around with Chris before. He's come up and sparred at freestyle a few times. Obviously he trains alongside Michael Stanoff, and is sort of one of the main staples at Lions Den, one of the main sort of guys out there. Good kickboxing. Knows what he's doing in the grappling and the wrestling department as well. Obviously they work pretty hard at Lions Den. But yeah, I think for Chris, he's probably going to want to utilize his height, his reach, and sort of make it just a sort of kickboxing fight from kickboxing range, and kind of try to capitalize on that. But in terms of overall weapons, I think Seb's got more weapons. Looking at it, and just obviously I'm biased because he's my training partner, and I get to see him every day and move around with him every day. But just the way he sort of puts everything together, and how he's able to utilize the sort of striking that he has, but then also if he needed to mix in the wrestling and stuff like that and the grappling. But even if he wanted to just keep the fight standing, his defensive wrestling is ridiculously good, and his scrambling ability is really, really good. So either way, I think it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be a fun fight to open the main card, but ultimately I just think Seb's going to, pick his shots, find his range, and be able to utilize his blitzing and his sort of feints and all the weapons that he has available. And I think, I see him catching a finish, within 1 or 2 rounds. I see him just capitalizing on what he's able to do, especially if he gets into the flow, the flow of things, with utilizing when he's blitzing, when he's not, when he's mixing in level changes, when he's not. Then there's just too much coming at you at once. So, a lot of people can get overwhelmed by that if they can't, shift it into their favor in some way or another.
Yeah, right. So what's the I guess you sort of pinpointed that Chris is a strong kickboxer. So is Sebastian on that sort of level or better? Where do you sort of put the striking side of things?
I think he's one of the better strikers in the division. He's he's got so much experience in that area. He's been doing it for such a long time. And like I said, he's just that karate point fighting style of being able to blitz in and out. We've seen it work so well in MMA, and you throw on, and the main sort of thing is, especially if the person's good defensively in the wrestling and they can keep it standing, they're just hard to deal with. I mean, look at the fights where people have been forced to stand with like Wonderboy and MVP and people like that. They just get absolutely melted because people are so good at getting in and out and doing their work and then getting out without taking much damage. And Seb's is very similar, and it's the same when you sort of moving around with him. Like you try and counter when he blitzes in, or you try and beat him to the punch, and you got to be throwing a few things his way. You got to sort of mix it up to be able to even get in. Otherwise, you're going to have some struggles. Whereas I feel like with Chris, he's going to want to capitalize on Seb blitzing in and look for the counters, or try and make it more of a boxing range while still working in the kicks to the leg, like calf kicks and stuff like that. But Chris does a lot of good work with his hands. So I feel like although he it's more of a kickboxing sort of style that he has, he does do a lot more with the punches. So I feel like if Seb can keep blitzing in and out, never stay in that one range, he's going to have a lot more success.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I mean, those karate style people, it is kind of still relatively unusual in MMA, isn't it? It's kind of a point of difference. Like, I don't know. I find I'm not a pro fighter. Let's put that on the table, or not anywhere, not even qualified to tie the bootlaces of a professional fighter. But they make me nervous, like karate style people, because you just when they go, they go. They
Yeah,
explode, and
it's
kind
you're
of just makes you
throwing.
nervous. You're like, oh, if I put a foot wrong here, they're just going to run me over. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of an interesting sort of thing.
that's the thing. Like but it's also it's the same way though. That's why I think he's with that style. You got to be sort of more defensively aware too, because you're blitzing in, and like you said, when you're blitzing in, you're going in deep and you're going in all the way, and you're looking to put hands on people. So you've got to be like ready to expect that something's going to come back your way, or you're probably going to cop a punch or two to do your best work. So yeah, it's very tricky, but he does it well, and I'm excited to see him open the main card.
Definitely, yeah, me too. It's a fun matchup. Now, after that one, there's also an intriguing matchup here. We've got Wes Kappa taking on John Bruin. Now, obviously, know Wes Kappa from the boxing scene. He's fought Sam Solomon. I'm pretty sure he's fought Sam Solomon. I don't know if hopefully I didn't make that up, but he's had I think probably 30 odd fights maybe on the sort of the national scene here in Australia. I actually didn't know that he had some history in MMA. It looks like he's had some fights quite some time ago, but he's coming back to the cage now. He's taking on John Bruin, who obviously
Yep.
we last saw taking on Blake Donnelly. It looks like he might have reeled off a win since then. So it's kind of an intriguing matchup. Like, Wes Kappa's obviously going to be a bit of an unknown quantity. Like, he's obviously been out of MMA for a long time. The hands are clearly going to be strong. He's been in the professional boxing field for quite some time. So, yeah, what do you make of this one?
Yeah, it's just going to depend on how much MMA training has he been doing, how much focus is spent on the game, like rounding out the game as a whole. Because obviously Bruin's a big guy for the weight class. He's huge. He's a big human, and for that weight class. And you saw when he fought. You see, Blake's obviously got good hands, but Blake's also got the wrestling pedigree and be able to mix it up. And you saw him able to sort of take John down and control him and do his best sort of work. But whereas for this fight, obviously, I think in the boxing sort of range, Wes is going to have like an advantage, or he's going to have some decent hands, and it's going to be one of those things. But can he stop the kicks? Can he stop the takedowns? Can he stop when someone's mixing it all together and giving him all those problems to solve? Because there is that unknown, like you don't know. You're just going off the face value sort of thing. So you're just expecting that this guy's going to come in and look to use his hands and do his best sort of work. So if I'm going into a fight with someone and I know that that's, whether that's their only avenue to victory is they want to stand there and box, like I'm going to present them every problem I can so that the boxing isn't able to be used. Whether that's, staying out range, using your length, using your kicks, using level changes, not even getting takedowns, but just the threat of it, putting them on the back foot. But at the same time, like, I imagine he's going to be prepared and well-rounded enough, or have enough of an understanding to be able to get in there and find some success, because otherwise he wouldn't be fighting in MMA, I'd imagine. I mean, why would you? So, yeah, it's an intriguing matchup because there's so much unknown going into it. And obviously John Bruin's going to have like a mission where he wants to come back and get a win after the fight with Blake, not sort of going his way. So yeah, it's an exciting fight because it is like, you don't know what's going to happen. It's like one of those ones where you really need to just sit down, watch it and be like, okay, let's see, let's find out. But yeah, both guys are obviously dangerous. Both guys, I imagine, have the power and the ability to put each other away. So it's just going to depend on how much mixed martial arts happens and how much boxing happens in this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, it's kind of an intriguing matchup because we don't really know what we're signing up for here. Like, yeah, I mean, Wes Kappa's been out of the game for some time, and again, like you say, like, I don't think anyone's fighting in a local MMA promotion for a paycheck, are they? So, at 34, is he sort of looking at a to make a run at this now? Is this something that he's been sort of chipping away at the side, doing again, like you mentioned there? Has he been training MMA on the side there, always with a view to coming back, or we just don't really know what to expect? when Wes steps in there, which is, it's quite interesting. Obviously, John's a strong, he's a solid fighter, and he's been in the game as well. He's been active, so yeah. I mean, you would probably expect John to be the favourite on paper, but yeah, we just don't really know what he's going to face in the cage.
Yeah, it makes it interesting. So obviously, it's hard for me to, because of all those unknown variables, it's hard for me to sort of pick who I think is going to win. But I mean, like you said, on paper, you got to lean towards John. But yeah, I guess that's the smart decision, but we don't know.
Absolutely, yeah. I guess we'll this weekend. So obviously after that one, there's a featherweight showdown there, which you may or may not have your eye on. It's Aaron McConnell versus George Mangos. So yeah, what do you make of that one?
Yeah, it's another good fight. Two guys that are, super dangerous, that when they get in there and fight, look like a lot more experienced than what they are up until this point in their careers, which is always cool to see. And I think that's a good thing, and that's going to provide both guys with a comfort in there to be able to do their best work. So, being on the main card, I think it's going to give an opportunity to kind of, separate themselves a bit further from everyone else and put on a sort of performance where you can go, holy shit, man, like this guy's another dangerous prospect in the division. So, yeah, I'm excited for that fight. I'll be watching it for sure. I'm down to see them boys throw down.
And who wins?
It's tricky. I think I think it'll be a back and forth sort of barn burner. I think it might even potentially, be one of those fights where we're sitting down afterwards going like, holy shit, that was crazy. I can see a decision win going to either guy after a sort of grueling technical war. So I don't know who to pick, but I'm excited to see what the boys bring to the table.
Absolutely. Now, of course, after that, we've got Alden Bates versus Stu Dare, which is, again, it's another interesting matchup. Obviously, Alden came back after a bit of a, I guess it was a bit of a layoff, wasn't he? It was probably 2 or 3 years on the sidelines there. He took on John Varkey, which is, it was a fight that probably wasn't going that well for the first half of the fight for him, but once he clicked into gear, particularly in that last round, he really showed what he could do in that fight. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what sort of I guess now he's blown out some cobwebs, what Alden Bates looks like, and of course he's got a more than capable opponent in Stu Dare. So yeah, what do you make of that one? Yeah,
if there's anyone that's going to bring out the need for you to fight like you did in that third round, it's going to be Stu. He's tough as nails, he's tough as nails. And them boys from Tassie, they go hard. They don't take us backward step. But yeah, if Alden comes out and fights how he did in that third round of his last fight, he's just going to melt him. He'll punish him. He'll put Stu away, I think. And from what I can see and what I've gathered in the prep for this fight, the dude's probably leaving no stone unturned. He looks like a fucking action figure when you look at him now. Like, he's just in shape. So he's obviously a big welterweight. So it's gonna be interesting to see. But yeah, obviously I'm leaning towards Alden. He's a pretty cool dude. Again, I've fought on a couple cards with him, and he's always been pretty cool guy to be at the back with and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I reckon Alden's gonna be able to get a TKO in the first or second, be able to put this fight away.
Awesome. And of course, the co-main event is another super intriguing matchup. Of course, you're going to have a bit of a biased opinion on this one. Obviously, Blake Donnelly's your guy. He's is the lightweight champion. Of course, he's defending his title against the young gun from Lewistro Academy in Perth, Quillan Salkild. So, yeah, like obviously Quillan's been super impressive in his most recent performances. He's looked. He's looked really well-rounded. He's been putting guys away, and obviously we know that Blake's really well-rounded as well, and he had a big win over Dave Martinez last time out. So, yeah, what do you make of the lightweight title fight?
Yeah, it's a banger of a fight. Obviously, yeah, Blake's the person I'm going to sort of be picking for this one. He's my friend, and he's also, fighting on the card with me and stuff like that. So, yeah, but I just think, obviously, Quinlan's really, really good. He's very talented. He's a big guy for the weight class too. Real long, and he puts it together real well. It's almost for my sort of breakdown of this fight. He's similar to Martinez in a sense of he's going to prefer to get things done with the grappling and the wrestling and sort of creating those scrambles, and and sort of transitioning from position to position and then finding a finish, which he was able to do so many times before. And obviously, you look at the fight with Don Marfan, there was so much of that happening in that fight. It was such a cool fight for that sort of side of things. But I don't think he's fought anyone like Blake before. I don't think he's fought anyone of that caliber yet. Blake's obviously, very well rounded. He can wrestle. He's got great boxing. He can grapple. He's defensively aware in positions, obviously, as we saw, and he's continuing to develop in those areas. His only losses to Dimps where he got caught. He got clipped and got caught, but outside of that, he's just ran through people. He's just been, like a hammer, just smashing people. And especially you look at the last fight against Dave, he was, got put in a few positions where Dave had his back or was looking very dangerous, but he was defensively aware, shut down, but then didn't just clear the position and sort of get out. He got back on top and re-engaged immediately and did sort of his own sort of damage and looked for his own sort of finishes constantly. And that's one thing about Blake. He's constantly looking to like do damage. So, I feel like that's what's going to happen in this fight. I feel like he's going to just look to do as much damage as possible at every opportunity. And especially if, Quinlan's able to string together some success or do something or put him in a compromising position, I think he's going to like have that chip on his shoulder to be like, oh, okay, you took my back. Now I'm going to fuck you up for real. Like now I'm going to try and drill your head through the floor. Which, I have a sort of, I guess, first person view of because I've sparred him so much and we obviously did a bunch of work this camp. I know what it's like when you get a little bit of success against him. He's obviously going to look to get it back straight away, which is a good quality to have as a fighter, because a lot of fighters probably will be in fights that are probably winnable for them, but they just don't have that extra gear to be able to be like, oh, I need to get something back. Like obviously, and also to do it in a way where you're not compromising yourself or putting yourself out of position. We've seen that happen so many times where someone's like feeling like, oh, I need to get something back or I'm going to lose this round or lose this fight. And then they leave themselves vulnerable and they get clipped and they get put away. Whereas I think Blake does that, but he does it still in a sort of reasonably defensive awareness type of way where he's still kind of, making sure that he's not out of position. But he is more than happy for the fight to be a brawl or just a straight down old fashioned scrap if it needs to be. And I think he backs himself to have the grit and the toughness to push harder than anyone that's going to be in front of him. So yeah, obviously Quinlan's super dangerous. He puts it together a lot better than I guess Blake's last opponent. Obviously, Dave's no secret. He likes to use his wrestling, his pressure, and his grappling, and get things done that way. Showing he's improved in his striking. He's mixing in kicks and stuff like that. But I think Quinlan puts the everything together as a whole a lot better, and I feel like that makes a unique challenge in its own sort of way. And I like the way he sort of comes out there and does his job in fights. He's a very talented mixed martial artist. It's just unfortunate for him that he's fighting against one of my friends and he's going to get his head punched in.
Yeah, I mean he's he's a young guy. I think Quillen's only 21 or 22, right? Isn't he? He's he's still coming up, and he's obviously had he's stepped up his competition. Like he obviously beat Liam Steven last time around, but this is it's another step up, isn't it? Like he's looked fantastic against Don Marfan and against Liam. And now he's got, Blake Donnelly again. That's the next level again. So again, it's kind of like an unknown quantity, right? He's looked really dangerous at the lower level. He might step up and just blow through everyone. This guy might be a really special talent. We just don't know. But I mean, on paper, it looks like Blake's a guy who's been there and done that. He's sort of been at that sort of top level for some time, and he's just as well rounded as Quillen is. So you would think that Blake would be the favourite going into this one. But yeah, we just don't know. You just don't know with a young talent like Quillen. That's why this matchup's so intriguing. Like, what have we got here in Quillen? We don't know. So yeah, guess we're about to find out.
Yeah, no, we're going to see this Saturday. We're going to see for sure, and I'm excited to watch that fight. And I'll get to watch as much of it as I can before I have to go out there and do my job. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm just excited to see that fight play out. I think that's my pick of fight of the night anyway.
Yeah, on paper, it certainly looks like a good one. How long do you spend watching the fights before you sort of have to go out there? Like, I mean, surely you've got your hands full by the time the co-main event's on, or?
No, I usually watch like as much of it as I can, but it's more so when they come get you and they come make you stand in this one spot and you don't actually. The only reason I can't watch it is because I don't actually have a visual of it. Like there's not like an actual. I can hear it, but I can't actually see it. So yeah, I mean, I'd watch the whole thing before I have to walk out. I don't really care. I'm not one of those people that's like walking backwards and forwards out the back, like trying to psych myself up and do all these things. Like I just treat it the same way I treat it on Saturday when I'm going to a sparring session. They're like most of the time I'll just do like a light little move around. As long as my hands are wrapped, the gloves are on. I got my groin guard in, I got my mouth guard, and then I'll be like, okay, let's go fight. I'm like, okay, let's go fight.
It's kind of like another day at the office for you at this point, isn't it? How many fights have you had all up at this point?
In total, close to 30, or if not about 30.
Okay, and at what point do you think that sort of, I guess that sort of clicks, where you sort of go from being sort of a nervous wreck to, just sort of kind of just, I don't know, just understanding the process enough that you don't really sort of get nervous, that you can kind of relax on the day?
For me, it happened by the time I made my pro debut. I think after having 9 or so amateur fights, I think by the time I made my pro debut, by then I was already sort of so comfortable, and then it just kept getting better and better and better and better. And now it's like yeah, it's just, I thrive on it. Just enjoy the whole process. Just enjoy like the whole part of it. I like, oh yeah, it's literally the best job in the world.
There you go. Well, and you get to go back to the office, of course, this weekend. June 10th, of course, you're taking on Rod Costa again, defending your Eternal featherweight title against Rod's obviously the bantamweight champion. You guys, as you know, you've faced off before. Rod won by first round TKO. A lot's happened since then. So yeah, how do you view this matchup?
Yeah, it's almost a couple of days. It's a couple of days apart from being almost the exact same day, 2 years apart from when we first fought. So yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird how it all sort of spun out. But like especially before, like when Rod dropped to bantamweight, I was like, oh, mate. Part of me was kind of like, oh, that matchup probably won't happen won't happen again unless he decides to come back to featherweight. But then yeah, I always kind of figured that we'd maybe, depending on how things time out, we'd run into each other again. Maybe it might just make sense. Like almost, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird matchup because it's weird that it's happening now. Like obviously it would have been better if it happened for us in February. It would have been better for both of us if it happened in February with the exposure that we would have got being the night before the UFC and stuff like that. But yeah, and also it could have kept things moving a bit more in both divisions, I think, because especially for the bantamweights, because I think there's a few guys that are probably like, oh, I need to, I want to fight, I want to fight for the belt, or I want to fight to know that I'm going to fight for the belt, but it's hard to do that when the champion of your division's out there doing something else. But either way, I'm excited for the fight, man. I'm excited to step in there, have a chance back in Perth to redeem myself and get this one back, and then step in there with the bantamweight champ. And he's the bantamweight champ for the reason. Like he's a talented fighter. He's grown and developed, and gone on a tear in his own way. But I just think it's a whole different ballgame this time around. I'm a whole different fighter. I think I saw him talking about. He doesn't believe that we've evolved that much like we have, but not like a crazy amount and all that sort of stuff. And saying the same stuff that Diego said in the lead up, that, I'm going to be thinking about the last time we fought and it's going to play on my mind. And didn't happen when I fought Diego. I guarantee you it's not happening now. And if you're coming in with the same approach that you had for the last fight and you think that it's going to go the same way, well, ask Diego how that went. It didn't work out for him. So, give me the respect that I'm giving you, because I am taking him seriously. I'm taking this as a whole different approach, a whole different fighter, a more developed mixed martial artist. But I'm excited at the prospect of going out there, showcasing my skills and putting this dude away, which is exactly what I'm going to do. I ain't going to no decision, and I ain't going to no decision in your hometown. As I spoke about, I'm taking all the risk in this fight. You're taking a minimal amount of risk taking this fight. I'm putting everything on the line. You're putting like maybe your win streak that you have right now on the line, because if you lose, you go back down to bantamweight, defend your belt a couple times, put away a couple good people, and it's like this is erased and you've forgotten about it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited to go out there and perform in this high pressure situation that I thrive in.
Absolutely. Is there anything that you can sort of draw from the last fight? Like obviously, again, like you're so different. Like there's been so much evolution. You've obviously moved to freestyle and improved in pretty much across the board, right? Over the last couple of years since that fight, it was quite a short fight as well. So, do you even watch it? Is there some, do you look at things like that and just kind of, use anything?
Yeah, there's obviously, I've watched it back, and there's things to pick out. Like, there were still good things that I did in the short amount of time of the fight, but ultimately the main thing to take out was I just, got lazy with my, just lazy and with my distance and my, wasn't being disciplined in there and kind of lost focus for a sec and got caught. So, and at this level against the people I'm fighting, you can't do that. You can't lose focus. You can't take that split second to be like, oh no, like I'm all right here. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're looking up at the lights going, damn, the fight's over and I lost. So, still plenty to take out, obviously, need to understand that there's still plenty of danger that can be presented my way. Obviously, Rod's got a significant grappling pedigree, but also at the same time, I know firsthand the dude's got power in his hands and he's durable, and he's shown that in his other fights. Like, he's very durable. He's hard to put away. He doesn't stop coming, and he likes to fight. So I need to, obviously keep that in my mind and understand that I can't expect that. I might walk in there and I might clip him and might put him away straight away in the first minute, and he might do the same to me. But I can't expect that that's what's gonna, I can't expect that that's how it's gonna go, because then I'm putting aside all that data that's already been presented to me, and I'm just ignoring it, and I can't do that. So I'm coming in there expecting that potentially for 25 minutes it's going to be me and this dude fighting, and it's going to be a technical mixed martial arts fight that's going to take place on the feet, on the ground, on the fence, in the clinch, like everywhere. So I'm prepared for everything. I've worked hard to get prepared for everything. I've had a really good camp. I feel like I've leveled up again, but at the end of the day, you're coming up to my weight class. As we've spoken about, I'm a big featherweight. I keep getting better. I keep improving. I keep getting more diligent with my conditioning, my strength sort of stuff, with my weight cuts, with all that sort of stuff. So it's a whole different level, and I'm expecting a whole different level from Rod. So I'm excited. I'm just excited to get in there. I'm excited to see what he's bringing, and I'm excited to put him away.
Absolutely. And what do you make of I guess the grappling in this matchup, right? Obviously, before the last fight, that was sort of the talk of the town, right? They've got, you guys are obviously both well-rounded fighters, but for you, like, the wrestling is sort of the ace up your sleeve. For Rod, it's he's obviously got the BJJ pedigree, as you've mentioned. So last time out, we didn't get to see it, which was kind of disappointing. So, what do you make of the grappling? Like, surely this fight goes to the ground this time. So, how do you think you guys match up on the ground? How does that play out?
At some point we're going to go to the ground. I have no doubt, and we're going to mix it up in all sorts of positions. But yeah, the big thing here is, I saw him do an interview, and he sort of said the same thing, right? I think we're both on the same page that if he and I got together and had a roll, like a jiu-jitsu match, or we just rolled in the gym or whatever, the prospect of me submitting him, or catching a submission on him in that sort of scenario, that's going to be hard to do. He's a world-class sort of black belt, and he's very, 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 very talented. But he himself touched on this. It's MMA. It's a different ballgame. MMA grappling is different to just straight jiu-jitsu. And you throw in the fact that there's punches, kicks, knees. I could clip him with a good shot. He goes down. I follow him down. I submit him. Same with me. He could clip me with a good shot, follow me down, submit me. So that changes the dynamic a bit. I think anyone can get submitted in MMA by anyone. And he said this himself. But he also then said that I'm just saying that. I don't actually believe that I can submit you. I promise you, if you give me an opportunity, I'm going to choke you unconscious in front of everyone that's there to support you, your loved ones, your friends, your family. Don't take my grappling lightly. Don't take my ability to put you away in that area lightly, because I can do that. It's MMA. I've done that before. And I can do it again. It's not same way. I'm very confident. It's not like I'm going, there's no way Rod Costa's going to take me down. I know I'm a great wrestler, but I can't come into a fight thinking that I'm going to be Superman, and I'm not going to, there's absolutely zero chance that that's going to happen, because then you're just putting those little things out there, so that if that happens, it just creates an unnecessary need to go, for your ego to go, can't believe I let this dude take me down, or I can't believe I let this dude catch my back, or, whatever. And then you start making mistakes. And by all means, if the grappling is going to happen, and we're going to find out. I've shown that I can, my level of ability of grappling and being able to put it together in MMA. while taking into account the punches, the kicks, the knees, everything, all those other factors. And, you know, I train with some pretty good grapplers in my own sense too. So we're going to find out. We're going to find out. We're going to test that. We're going to test that level of grappling, and we're going to find out who's going to have success. But I promise you, if he thinks that I can't submit him and he doesn't take it seriously, he's going to wake up looking at the ceiling going, what happened? And they're going to be like, you got choked out.
Yeah, there you go. And yeah, I guess we'll find out how it all plays out this weekend, June 10th, Eternal 76 UFC Fight Pass, or I don't know if there's tickets left for the show itself in Perth, but yeah, there you go. While we're on the local scene, of course, I thought we might just have a quick chat about about Hex Fight Series 26, which happened last weekend. So we're on a little bit of a week's lag there, but there's a few sort of little talking points there. Obviously, your teammate Jarrett Wilbraham had a win over Brad Ramsey. So what did you make of Jarrett's performance?
Yeah, another standard sort of Jarrett fight. It was crazy. It was wild, and he showed a lot more patience, I think, and he definitely showed the improvements that he's made in his grappling and his defensive wrestling and defensive grappling as well. But yeah, I thought it was a really good fight. I thought Brad came in. He brought a whole different sort of dynamic to the fight as well. Very similar style to Jarrett, and obviously, yeah, the boys threw down, and there was a few times where they clipped each other with some big shots, some fancy, flashy kicks, and there was a lot happening. So yeah, I was impressed to see Jarrett go out there and showcase the improvements that he's made, but also just be a bit more patient, because obviously we know the dude can, just throw down and scrap if he needs to and make it wild and crazy. But it was cool to see him sort of be a bit more patient, pick his shots a bit more. But at the same time, yeah, there was still parts of that where he was just like, all right, fuck it, let's fight, let's scrap. And both boys sort of did that. So it was no surprise that it was fight of the night. But I think, I guess people probably didn't see, but Jarrett was in hospital after that fight from the spinning back kick that he took. There was a bit of iffiness there, and then the doctors at the hospital and stuff handled it immensely poorly, and he ended up just checking himself out of hospital and getting better care somewhere else. But
oh damn,
yeah, so it was like, it shows you that even in a fight like that he won, the dude took some fucking damage there, and old Brad Ramsey throws a pretty good spinning back kick then. So yeah, it was a dope fight. I enjoyed watching that fight.
Yeah, definitely, and of course your other teammate, your good friend Colby Thickness, obviously suffered an injury, sort of leading into his fight with Emrahan Hekimoglu. There was obviously a bit of hullabaloo at the at the weigh-in there with the chicken and that sort of thing. Obviously Hekimoglu went on to beat a short notice replacement. I forget who the replacement opponent was, but how's Colby going, and what did you make of all that sort of madness?
Yeah, he's obviously on the mend, focusing on his recovery, getting himself sorted. He's got an intercostal injury, so he's just doing what he can to just sort of recover, and still sort of just taking it day by day, which is all you can do really. I've had one of those injuries myself. It's what happened when I was scheduled to face Khan Offley and couldn't make that happen. But yeah, it's just a shitty sort of injury to have, because you breathe, it sucks. You sneeze, it sucks. You turn, it sucks. You bend over, you lay down, you stand up, you walk. Doesn't matter. It's just not good. And it's just, so he's taking it day by day and just recovering. But I'm sure he'll be good to go sooner rather than later. But obviously, he's scheduled to face Emrahan, who's a bit of a joke. But yeah, we'll go into a bit more detail, I guess. So obviously the fight didn't come to fruition, but Emrahan was able to go out there and get a win over a last-minute replacement. Got a finish submission. I do believe it was a guillotine, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, good effort to him, good win by him. But the dude's a clown, and I think the whole act that he puts on, and he's doing that for him. That's for him. That's not for anyone else. So you're not the person that you're this character that you're putting out. You're clearly not, because you're an insecure, vulnerable person that decided to lie about your record and think that you could hide a loss that you suffered, and you're presenting this picture like you're undefeated and you're this dangerous guy, you're a mountain guy, and you're like Khabib and you're like Khamzat, and you're not. You're a bitch. You're a little dude with subpar wrestling, okay grappling, and absolutely dog shit striking. So it's like those other guys that you're comparing yourself to or that you're claiming that you're like, they actually have these things and abilities and skills and talents that they've worked years at, honing and making so dangerous that even if someone knows that it's going to happen, they still can't stop it. Whereas like with you, it's just kind of like who have you fought as well? No one. And if they reschedule the fight between him and Colby for August, or which I hope they do, Colby's going to hurt him, man. Colby's going to hurt him everywhere. I just can't wait to see the look on this dude's face when he goes to, utilize the things that he thinks he's going to be good at, and he just gets shut down, and then he's like, this isn't meant to happen, and then he's just going to get melted. And then the same sense too, I don't want to hear any excuses after the fact when he gets melted and destroyed by Colby, where he's like, this wasn't going well, or I had an injury, or all of a sudden, I don't want to hear no excuses. You're claiming you're here for war and you're ready to die and all this sort of shit. There can be no excuses after you get your ass whooped in August that's it. You suck, and that's why you got your ass whooped.
Is that on the table? Is that something that's been discussed, sort of putting the fight back together?
I assume so, and I guarantee like the Hex promoters are smart enough to realize there's a lot of hype, and that's going to sell a lot of tickets and put a lot of bums in seats, and people are going to order that pay-per-view because various reasons. People like watching Colby fight. He's super talented, and he's a very exciting prospect in Australian MMA. But also, people want to see, like, there's obviously Olmet's got a lot of supporters. He had a lot of people there for the fight. Like, he's got a lot of supporters and a great supporting base with him. So there's that, but also like a lot of people are going to tune in or want to be there to watch it just to see him get his head punched in, because a lot of people didn't fuck with the antics of him, what he was doing at the weigh-ins and how he was acting afterwards, and just this whole character and that he's putting on. But also the fact that I outed you and exposed you lying about your record, and now that got put out everywhere, and people don't fuck with that, man. Like, you're making a joke of what this sport is and what it's supposed to be and how you're supposed to carry yourself through it. And then you got people like fucking, clowns that are like, will come out to try and like justify this dude's behavior or his antics and be like, oh, but we've all lost and these person's got losses and you got losses or whatever. Yeah, everyone's got losses, but the difference is between fighters like him and fighters like, like even me. I've got a few losses on my record. I haven't tried to hide any of my losses. I haven't shied away from any of my losses. But you got clowns like Lisa Kiriakou and Khan Offley and all these people that are like trying to clown people that are going on Emrahan for the stupid shit that he's doing and how he's trying to hide his loss and whatever. And then, these people are weak-minded individuals that think it's okay to justify that type of behavior. And it's just not. You're making a mockery of the sport because you're claiming that you're this undefeated dude, and yeah, cool, you're undefeated. And then you go and get an opportunity from someone that you don't deserve because you're just dodgy. You're just a dodgy individual. And up until this point, like, who have you fought? No one. So yeah, I don't know. I can't relate with stuff like that, but yeah, if people want to be associated with stuff like that and they want to do that, that's cool. That's for them to do, but ain't for me to do.
Yeah, I guess it's all part of the hype now, isn't it? Like whether he's playing a character, or whether that's kind of the way he normally sort of talks. It's kind of fun, sort of having a. I guess he's sort of kind of playing the villain a little bit there, So it's kind of it makes it kind of fun. So hopefully they get to put that fight back together and they get to sort of settle it in the cage as they do, but. Yeah, also on the night, again, another intriguing fight that night was George Sotiropoulos coming back after 9 years, sort of, I don't know if you'd call it retirement, but 9 years in the competitive wilderness, I guess. Came back and fought Josh Togo, but it kind of ended in a bit of an anticlimactic finish. It was sort of, the no contest from the eye poke. From the clips that I sort of saw, it looks like the doctor maybe didn't sort of. Do go through sort of the testing procedure. He kind of just waved off the fight sort of fairly quickly from what I've sort of seen and read and those sorts of things. So what did you make of that whole I guess the Sotiropoulos versus Togo fight before that and of course then in turn the finish?
Okay, Josh, I love you. You're a cool dude. You know how much respect I have for you. I appreciate you, but you need that fight and you don't need to be asking for a rematch straight off the bat. There's no, like, I don't get it. What are we doing here? And then also, cool that you took the fight. How did you not put that dude away in like less than 3 minutes. Well, what are we doing here? The game's evolved and changed immensely. The days of being able to exchange a couple punches here and there, then shoot a takedown at the end of the round or whatever, and think that that's going to lead to you winning a fight, like those days are gone. Like, what are we doing here? So, I have my thoughts about the fight being booked and the fight, but now, especially now that it's happened, it's kind of good that it went the way it did, because I didn't have to watch Soteropoulos get his head kicked off and be unconscious and take unnecessary damage, and then we're all sitting there going, why was this guy fighting? Or what's the motivation? What are we doing? Whatever. And then also at the same sense, I don't want to see Josh Togo head kick a dude that's 45 and then be like running around being like, I'm the best lightweight in the show. He is one of the top lightweights in the show, but it's like, that's just not a good look for anyone. But, it happened. It's a lot more competitive than I thought it was going to be, whether that was because, I don't know, Josh was giving him more respect than what he should have, or I don't, if Soteropoulos, maybe it was just a weird sort of approach to how he was approaching the fight. I don't know, but it was just, yeah. And then, okay, the fight's booked, the fight's happening, and then you have it stopped for a no contest for an eye poke and shit like that. That doctor apparently has had a bunch of issues and a bunch of reports made against him to the commission because he's just inadequate at doing his job and stuff like that. And I've seen a few people post about that, but yeah, he didn't do a test. He didn't say, he didn't even get his 5 minutes. Josh didn't get the 5 minutes. He meant to get 5 minutes, and then you come check. Give me 5 minutes. Come check and go. And then even then, if the person wants to fight, I think you should let him fight. But none of that happened. He just kind of, from what I saw, just avoided doing that, and then said to Josh, like in the cage, like screamed at him and was like, I'm the doctor and it's my call and the fight's over, and then called the fight. So it was like the whole situation is just a stupid one. And it's a stupid one for everyone. It's a stupid one for Josh. It's a stupid one for George, because I don't think he's intentionally going out to eye poke anyone, but at the same time, it's just, the whole thing is just a joke, and it's shit for Hex. It's shit for the people that are behind the scenes that are putting these fights together, that are putting that show together, to have something work out like that based on ultimately the incompetence of the dude that's meant to be the ringside doctor, or the doctor for the event. It's just, I don't know. I don't need to see them book a rematch for that fight, but I saw that Josh was asking for it, and I saw that the Hex was asking if they, like, the people, should they run, is that something that they should run back? But I don't think they do. It didn't work out. It went to shit because of an inadequate sort of approach by the doctor, and it's a no contest, and just leave it at that. Josh can move on, fight someone else. I'm taking it at face value that George says that he's back and he wants to keep fighting and wants to keep having some fights. Cool. So get him out here fighting people that it makes sense for him to fight. I saw Damian Brown called him out on Instagram. So make that happen. He's a UFC vet as well. Make that fight happen. Do that shit. I don't need to see George fighting these young up and coming contenders. So
yeah, it's kind of It was kind of an interesting sort of thing. Again, it sort of comes back to the motivation at 45 years old. What is what's George's intention? Like, again, he's probably not coming back for a paycheck, right? So maybe he just wants to sort of compete a couple of times and ride off into the sunset. I don't know. It's kind of it's interesting. But like when they were talking about the rematch, obviously, Josh has been calling for it. I saw his interview with Mitch Tinley. He sort of asked, he said he wanted the rematch. George, I saw a clip of George backstage at Hex. He didn't really commit to it. Again, sort of like you touched on there, he asked for any sort of ex-UFC lightweights. That was sort of what he wanted next. He didn't really want to commit to a rematch with Josh. So I guess that sort of thing makes sense, except that there's not really a whole lot of ex-UFC lightweights kicking around on the local scene, So yeah, Damian Brown was the one that heeded the call. I know he does a commentary with Ryzen. I don't know if he's under a fight contract with them still. So I don't know if there's an issue there, but he's sort of tagged Hex Fight Series in it as well. So I assume that means that he's available to fight on the local scene as well. But can they put this fight together? Like, obviously guys like George, guys like Damian, they're probably not, like, I guess Damien could probably fight on Ryzen again if he wanted to for a decent sort of pay packet. Would it be worth their while to fight on Hex Fight Series? Can a local promotion like Hex put something like this together? Is my question.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird scenario for guys like that, because obviously they've fought at a certain point in a certain they've gotten to sort of the pinnacle of the sport in a sense, to then come back to a regional sort of thing and fight, they're going to have a value, an idea of what their value is as a fighter and what they should be getting, or what's justifiable for them to ask for and to get. And like you said, can a regional promotion provide that? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Hex can. It looks like they're going gangbusters with their production value and their setup and with everything. So, and, it was a sellout. So with the new owners doing what they're putting together the show and stuff like that, who knows? They might have the ability to put the fight together. They might have the ability to give either guy what they're sort of asking for in the financial side of things, and then, be able to throw these fights together, because I guess people are going to want to see it anyway. You want to see, those sort of fights. Yeah, you're going to want to watch them. Make sense. I'd watch George and Damian Brown fight each other. That makes a bit more sense to me. But yeah, I don't need to see him fighting like young up and coming contenders.
Yeah, definitely. I guess we'll see. See how that one plays out. But of course, Kevin Doucet became the double champion. He stopped Kit Campbell to add the welterweight title to his middleweight strap. So, again, impressive performance against a really strong fighter in Kit, and he moves to 8-2, and he's possibly off to Disneyland now, right?
You'd think so, especially being that he retrains, and yeah, it makes sense if he got picked up by a major organization like the UFC, especially after that, winning a second belt. And over someone like Kit as well. It was a great performance from him. I think, Kit had his moments and started to sort of look like he was finding a bit of success in certain areas, but then obviously Doucet adjusted, got the trip, got the takedown, got on top and pounded him out and got the win. I saw something about Kit posted afterwards talking about the round was nearly over, and he'd love to run it back at middleweight or something like. And I just think like it was just, I don't know. I didn't think the stoppage was a bad one. You were completely flattened out on your belly, getting punched in the head, and you weren't improving position, regardless of how much time's left. The refs are going to stop it. Like, that's just how it is. But Kit's obviously super dangerous. He's fought the who's who. He's been around for a hot minute. So I'm sure if he wants to keep going, he can keep going and get himself right back on track. But for Doucet, it's going to make sense to see him fight on a card in France or a card here in Australia or something like that, especially, being that he's potentially going to fight alongside some of his teammates if he does do that.
Definitely. So, be interesting to see how he fares. So, speaking of the UFC, of course, they were in action over the weekend. Jamie Mullarkey took on a late replacement in Muhammad Naimov, and he suffered a second round TKO. I guess it's it's a game of inches, isn't it? Like, I guess sort of seeing the finish, like Mullarkey kind of just I guess he kind of entered with his hands down, sort of just hesitated for a second, and he got clipped, didn't he? So what did you make of Jamie's performance?
Yeah, obviously it's tricky when you take a last minute replacement, and you kind of not sure of how it's going to feel with the guy in there, because he's similar but different to the guy you've been preparing for. But I thought he was in control of the fight. I thought he looked good. I thought he was mixing up everything really well. And then he landed a few hard shots. I think he landed a few hard kicks, and he was looking for a few good entries and stuff like that, and made name of. Have to adjust it quite a few times with a few different sort of positions. Coming out for the second round in the corner, Ross did tell him, like, we need to put on that pressure now and like mix it in and commit to the sort of stuff. But then, like you said, it just, I don't know, it's hard because obviously, I don't want to see my friends get fucking clipped like that and get put away. But it looked like, like you said, it just looked like he kind of blitzed forward, put pressure on, was saw Naimov near the fence. Level change, like he was going to go for the takedown, but then last minute kind of pulled out of it. And obviously Naimov was already sitting down and throwing the hook, because he thought that, he was sort of anticipating that a punch was coming his way. So I think he was already throwing the hook as a counter. So when Jamie's head came back up, it just clipped him, and, that was it. You just got clipped, and old mate jumped on the finish. So it's a shitty sort of outcome, especially for how hard Jamie worked, because obviously he did the bulk of, did a bulk of work with him for this camp, because he was coming to freestyle and stuff like that. So, and splitting it between the two gyms. But I'm sure he'll be he'll be back. This isn't the first time he's faced a setback. I'm sure he'll get back, get on a run, knock a few people out, and keep climbing up the ranks and get towards where he needs to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's it at the at the elite level, isn't it? It's just it takes one little sort of split second, and it's game over, even against a short notice replacement. But obviously Kai Kara France was in the main event, took on Amir Albazi. Obviously, Albazi's got the split decision, which has set the internet on fire a little bit. A lot of posts seem to be saying that at least 1, 4, and 5 were Kai Kara France. I've seen a couple of people playing devil's advocate saying that Albazi perhaps did more damage, or that sort of thing. But ultimately, the general consensus seems to be that it was a bit of a, I don't know, do we use the R word here? I don't know. What do you reckon?
I think. Yeah, they definitely got it wrong. Like, even if you want it to be generous, the fight still goes to Kai 3 rounds to 2. I watched it back this morning, and I was kind of like, even then watching it back, like trying to do it objectively and knowing the result and stuff like that, still trying to score it. I don't like. One of the judges gave Albazi the 4th round, which makes no sense because Kai clearly won that round and won the. I get Albazi was doing a lot more of the coming forward and putting on walking forward and that, but Kai was doing more damage. And if we look at the scoring system and the criteria, damage is first. So, I can see where you'd give him the round where he had Kai's back. So he had Kai's back, went for a sub, came close. Kai got out, reversed it, got on top, landed a few elbows and punches on top. I'd still give that round to Albazi because he was closer to finishing the fight based on what happened. Even though Kai was beating the shit out of him for the last 30 seconds on top, he was almost finished. So you got to kind of give him that round. So that makes sense. But to think that dude won that fight is, it's a bit of a stretch. But it's unfortunate for Kai that he's just, he should be coming off a win and potentially looking at fighting the winner of Pantoja and Marino, considering he just fought Marino, was in control of the fight, and then, got caught with a body kick. So it's just, this is how it is at the top level of the sport, and especially how it is for those top contenders. You just got to, and you don't have the time to sit there and dwell on things and whinge about it. You kind of just got to get going again. And I think that's what he said himself. I just got to go again because I'm one of the best guys in the world. So, you just need to 1 or 2. It's the same as if you look at the lightweight division. You might lose a fight if you're in that top 3, but if you win 1 or 2 fights, you're right back in contention for fighting for a title, because the other guys that you're fighting are the top 5 best guys in the world, in a sense. And even with this fight, he took a gamble fighting a guy that's ranked 7th. He's not even in the top 5. So, you can't knock him for being like, whatever, let's go. Let me fight this dude who's a tough challenge and try and put it on the line. But he got robbed of the fight, and he got robbed of the moment of being able to keep progressing forward towards another title shot. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how they reschedule it. But if Albazi thinks that a performance like that is worth a title shot, he's going to be in for a rude awakening if he has to fight either one of those 2 dudes, because they're a different sort of caliber and a different sort of level.
Yeah, definitely. I guess, like you say, at that elite level, they're all high stakes fights, aren't they? So, a decision like this going against you can be pretty costly. But Kai's obviously a long-time contender now, so he's never far away from a title fight. So, he was all class in the interviews that I've seen after the fight. So I think he's just going to get back on the grind and work his way back up there. Now, I've got a couple of little sort of controversial sort of things to sort of cover off here, I guess. We wanted to just sort of touch on Rob Wilkinson. It was the news that came out last week that he'd become, I think the 10th PFL fighter to sort of to test positive for some sort of PED. We don't really have all the information. We don't really know what it was, or what sort of the amount was, or when the test was conducted, or whatever. I imagine it was probably in competition. If they've pulled him out of his they've pulled him out of the PFL bracket for this season. Obviously, he's the reigning champion at light heavyweight. So I guess what do you make of the news? Well, obviously, again, we don't have all the information here, and it probably comes as a bit of a surprise. You wouldn't have thought that Rob Wilkinson would be the type of character to sort of do something like that. So I guess what do you make of it? Are we talking about a tainted supplement here? Is this is this something that's sort of maybe he thought he was going to get away with? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, we don't have too much information to go on, but it's just not a good look. Like, you get popped after you came out after your fight with Santos, being like, being so vocal, being like, yeah, you would need steroids to fight me and beat me, but now you get popped, you delete your Instagram, you're not being very vocal or talking about it, or all I'm saying is, if I'm like adamant, I know I didn't do anything wrong, and I don't take supplements, I don't take steroids, and I don't take PEDs, and I'm not trying to cheat, and I get popped for something and I get accused of something, I'm going to do whatever I can to be vocal and come out and say, like, nah, and I'm going to look into it as much as I can, use some of that $1 million that you won and start putting together something to figure out what the fuck's going on. But I guess the only reason that you're not doing that, I guess most lawyers and that will tell you not to say anything until, the facts are presented and things, more evidence is presented and stuff like that. But I just think, like, if you know that you didn't do anything wrong, you wouldn't be hiding away or grounding yourself down. You'd be sort of coming out saying, I didn't do anything wrong. And then, just take that sort of approach. But I guess we're getting the opposite, and it's not a good look and not a good reaction. So I don't want to slate the guy all the way yet and be like he's a fucking PED using cheater, but best believe if it comes out that he is and that he was just trying to skate under the radar, then I will, because we don't have time for that shit.
Yeah, so when does the information come out now, right? Like, is there, I don't, like, is there a process? Like, does USADA or whoever does the testing for the PFL, does the PFL prevent all the extra information? Like, if Rob and his team have sort of gone to ground, like, where does that information come from? Will it ever come out?
You'd hope it does. You hope it doesn't just get swept away, and then a year or something goes by, and we're like, and he gets a suspension, and then the suspension's up, and then we just don't talk about it again. I hope that whoever's doing it, does go, okay, well, here's what it was, here's how much it was, here's what happened, or, I could be that it was just something crazy that just happened, and he doesn't want to see he knows that he didn't do anything wrong, and he doesn't want to see all the negative comments coming his way and stuff like that, and he's just decided to sort of step away. I get that, that's another option, but that's not how I'd approach it if I was confident that I didn't do the wrong thing.
Yeah, I guess it kind of looks a little bit weird, but I guess everyone handles these things differently. So we've got to reserve our judgment, don't we, until we sort of find out what's happened. But yeah, obviously what we have on the table is a positive test, so it doesn't look too good, does it? But obviously also New Zealand have joined Australia and England in sort of distancing themselves from IMAF. Obviously, I think it looks like you have a bit of information on sort of, I guess, where that sort of stems from, because they released a little bit of a statement today, which didn't really sort of provide a whole lot of information. So, yeah, what do you make of this new sort of, I guess these nations breaking away from IMAF, the sanctioning body?
Yeah, so obviously it's looking like those three countries have all sort of taken the decision to sort of step away from IMAF. I think New Zealand, there's a few reasons, but the biggest one that we're seeing come out now is the fact that the Bulgarian head coach is a convicted rapist dating back to 2005 when he raped a 15-year-old girl. So, and it seems like the IMAF obviously knew about this, but they still appointed him and allowed him to be the head coach of Bulgaria. And, so obviously that's left a massive bit of disappointment and a sour taste in everyone's mouth from those sort of countries that obviously decided to step away, as you can understand, which is good. And the fact that this guy was allowed to be coached, become the head coach of, and be part of that, knowing the history that he has, like it's a bit of a joke, really, that it shouldn't happen. Especially when you're in a position where you're going to be around kids of a similar age that you are convicted of being inappropriate with, not being inappropriate with, like you raped someone that was 15. Like, should you be around anyone that's of that same age? Probably not. You shouldn't be around anyone. You should be in a hole somewhere. But so IMAF's obviously made the decision. I don't know, and I haven't looked and done the deep dive yet. I'm planning to, but it seems like there's some fishiness going on with IMAF, obviously being aware of it and stuff like that, and still choosing to move forward in that sense. So I think, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But if this keeps up with nations like this withdrawing, it could see like you and I touched on off air, it could see the whole thing sort of just topple over and be done.
Yeah, these things are all about mass adoption, aren't they? And if people start to if not people, but if these nations continue to walk away, then the whole thing collapses, doesn't it? Like everyone has to buy into it for it to even exist. So yeah, it could be the end of it, as we know.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll just have to sit back, wait and see, and do some more digging.
Absolutely, and I guess everyone will sit back and wait and see when episode 41 of Fight Talk Down Under drops. Will it be next week? Will it be next month? Will it be next year? Who knows? But we'll try and get on next week. Of course, we'll have plenty to talk about after Eternal 76. So we'll have to make sure we get an episode in, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of other sort of things on the local scene, Aussies abroad, all those sorts of things to cover off. So until then, give us a like and subscribe. YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Fight News Australia, iHeartRadio. If you haven't already, of course, we've got our Instagram page at Fight Talk Down Under. If you want to drop in any questions, anything you want to see more of or less of, let us know on Instagram. Other than that, Lockjaw, what do you want to take us off with?
Yeah, obviously, tune in for everything that's coming, and obviously watch the fights, buy your tickets if you're in Perth. If you not in Perth or whatever the case is, get your UFC Fight Pass going, and watch the fights this weekend because it's gonna be fun.
I gotta watch it. You never know what might stop you. Here I am.